Seven, six, five, four, three, two, one.
You'll never have these.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You'll never have the sacred stone.
Oh, this you crazy mother.
I could be learning, you could be yearning to see what's behind these closed doors. But I
David, can you water?
I was just thinking that.
I could be learning, you could be yearning to see what's behind these closed doors. But I
Oops, wrong button. Hello, good evening and welcome. It's Wednesday, it's 7 o'clock and it's time to meet a business hero this week. My name is Richard Wraith and this is the Business Heroes Show. And today we are diving into some great content. We're actually talking about creating great content. So who better to speak to about creating great content than a content and PR expert herself. Please welcome Jane Rogers of Jane Rogers PR. Hi, Jane. Oh, hang on. There we go. Now they can hear you. Say that again.
Hello, hi everyone. How are you doing?
Everyone's hopefully doing good. We do hope they're all having a great and productive week. I'll cut the
Definitely.
intro a lot shorter this week and straight in. Watching some of my previous week's shows, there was a lot of messing about going on. So this week, no nonsense, 2 minutes, that's your limit. Straight in and away we go. So today we're talking about creating great content. And that's something that Jane does. So why don't I shut the hell up and let Jane explain who she is and what she does?
Okay, thanks everyone. Thanks, Richard. Hi everyone. I am a content creator and marketing and PR person. My background is in PR. I've been working in the industry for about 20 years, running my business for just coming up to 10 years. And I sort of recently have realized that predominantly what I do is creating lots of content for people, as well as doing the what you traditionally term as PR and marketing techniques. An awful lot of what I'm doing is the writing and the creating of the content. So I'm actually focusing my business along those lines now.
Awesome. So Jane, basically, I don't know how many of you have seen, there's a chap called Piyush Patel. And if any of you don't know, which I'd be pretty hard to find anyone who doesn't know, he's won 2 awards. He does like to tell people about it.
He has, he does.
All of the PR that basically got him and these awards out there in the press and got everyone to know about it, Jane is the one that's responsible for that. So she did a wonderful job of, well, no, all of it. None of it was Piyush, honest. So basically, if you've got a great story to tell, Jane is the person to get it out there into the media. And if you're not sure what story to tell, need to put one together, Jen is the person to speak to help you get to a point where you've got a great story to tell, and then tell you what to do with that story. Hopefully,
Yep.
politely, Jane.
Yes, of course.
I'll tell you what to do with your story, Rich. You don't want to hear what she said to me earlier. God blimey, make your eyes go cross-eyed. So, I'm basically calling this show the Business Hero Show. Having a slight adjustment to the name because, quite frankly, people who show up for work every day and do their best, they're business heroes. Not that they're the people who are turning up for work every day, doing their best, and know exactly what they're doing. Not the people who turn up when they feel like it, haven't got a clue what they're doing, and want to charge you silly money. So, who's this show about? This show is for people who are starting a business or thinking of starting a business, or people who've been running a business but sort of lost their way a bit. They feel a bit sort of fuzzy, if you like. You're in a bit of a mess or a bit of a tangle, and you're not sure which direction you want to go in or how to do certain things. So if you'll notice, in January we started with starting a business, then we moved on to picking direction and finance and finding an accountant and talking about money. And for the whole of March, we were talking about something else that I've forgotten about. That was a great month. No, we were talking about yes, we're talking about starting a business, feedback and reviews and stuff like that. Engaging with your customers. And for the whole of April even.
April.
Yeah. Busy day today, right?
Yeah.
So for the whole of this month, we've been talking about marketing. So you've started your business, you found your accountant, you've worked out how to ask customers if you're any good. And now we're going to talk about this month. We're talking about marketing and how to make sure that when you do get customers, that they understand what the hell you're doing and what you're about. So Jane, what if we could ask people, those that are listening, and there's quite an audience today actually. Well done, guys.
Okay,
You've all tuned in. So if we could ask the audience a question of the day, what do you think would be a good question we could ask them because I'd want to see their answers and see what they come up with.
Yeah, I think it would be quite interesting to know what type of content that they struggle with. Is there anything you struggle with creating, or even knowing what to create? So I'd be interested to hear what people have to say about that, really.
So
and then we can offer some advice on that. Yeah,
what type of content are you struggling with? I know probably the hardest content for anyone is going to be video. Not everyone's, most people just got those pesky little webcams on the end of their laptop. So that's going to be a difficult one. But it'd be interesting to see what you guys are struggling with. What type of content do you have issues creating or coming up with? Because even if you have the best production camera in the world, you've still got to know what to say when you switch it on, right?
Yes, yeah, and that's what I'm all about. Really, is what you say and how you say it, and the messages that you get across to people. I am also scared of being on camera, so this for me is quite out of my comfort zone. So
you're not scared of being on camera. I fail to believe that actually.
It's one of the things about being in business is just having a go, though, isn't it? And trying your own thing.
The worst thing you can do is have a go and fail. I'm a living testament to that, as if you watch the last 14 shows. But even those, quite often people are scared of haters and people who are going to slag them off. And as far as I'm concerned, that's still an audience. That's still someone who's paying attention to what you've got to say. If they didn't like it, they wouldn't watch it and they would just shut up. So if someone's got something to say about what you're doing, then you've got an audience. And where there's an audience, there's money, right?
That's true. I mean, there's an old saying that a lot of people have heard: "Is no publicity is good publicity, or is bad publicity." Sorry, which can be taken both ways, really. And I think actually there's an element of truth in that. Yeah.
Look who's joined us this evening, Clarice Wumbar.
Oh, hi Clarice. How you doing?
Fabulous to see that you've managed to join us today. It's awesome to have you on, and I hope you're keeping well. And someone else has joined us as well. Neela Prabhu.
Neela, hi. Hello, Neela.
She needs to sort a little picture out here. Look, this little purple.
Yeah.
Get your photo in there. She's
headshot.
Yeah. She's had these wonderful headshots taken by none other than our guest last week.
Yeah.
And she hasn't put them on. Oh my gosh. If it wasn't for social distancing right now, she'd be in a lot of trouble. She says she struggles to make a service-based business visual on Facebook and Instagram. Video content is scary. I think only. Would you agree with that, Jane?
Well, the video content is scary.
Hmm.
I think it can be scary being in front of the video, not knowing exactly what to say, or certainly a problem I have whenever I've tried to record my own videos is tripping up over what you're saying. Now, something like this actually is a better method, and I think if you struggle with that, try the different formats. Interviews. In fact, Piyush, you mentioned Piyush earlier. He did an interview with me back when I joined the FSB last summer, and that actually was probably one of the best videos to date I've done, because it was just natural. So it is about being natural and putting yourself across. At the end of the day, business is people buy people. So in business, we're all people, and people want to buy you.
I'm not a person. I've been called a lot of things. None of them was a person.
But yeah, I'm just looking at Neela's other point about struggling to make a service-based business visual on Facebook and Instagram. And that, I guess that comes down really to
Depends what you do, doesn't it?
What you're doing and the photography. So, looking at what Michelle was saying last week and choosing, getting shots that are relevant for that, really. But equally, I guess then that would come down to, maybe having some written content in graphics, in graphic formats, or an infographic or something like that helps to demonstrate.
I was just going to say, what's that word for a picture that's got lots of info on it?
Infographic, yeah.
That's it, yeah. Things like infographics. So those are often forgotten about, aren't they?
They are, yeah, not so much now.
No, Dell use them a lot. They've got some wonderful infographics because they provide all the resources that they got the numbers from as well. So you can't just look at it and go, "Oh, you're making it up," and actually. Yeah, so infographics, but yeah, if like Neela, what you do is quite private, you don't want to be sitting there with a patient in front of you on a video camera. Smile, this is going on Facebook. No, see you later. I'm out there.
But you can stage some shots. I mean, that's something that Michelle talked about, I know, last week. Where it's not a real patient, or all that kind of thing, or for a business like like my business or your business, Richard, or some of the others probably on. I mean, tonight
you can't do anything with video with web hosting, because what are you going to do? Film a computer running? That's about as exciting as. I'd rather watch paint dry.
Yeah, it's looking at things like shots of a computer, or desk layouts, or that kind of thing, or otherwise, doing it in other ways. Yeah.
Well, plus for security, I mean, we're not allowed any photography equipment in the data center at all. You're allowed your phone, and if you're a bit sneaky, you can. We did do a photo shoot in the data center a while back, but that had to be prearranged with the manager of the data center, and they supervise your photo shoot to make sure that you don't wander off into areas where you shouldn't be, and that you're only photographing your own equipment and stuff. So yeah, they're quite strict on stuff like that, because obviously you don't want other companies that are using that data center to be photographing your stuff while they're in there.
No, quite rightly.
Quite reassuring. Yogesh, hi Yogesh, good to have you on.
Hello.
He says, how would you help chartered accountants with content? I don't know.
That's a good question. So
I would have said a handgun, but
that's I guess that's about for accountancy. Some people, perhaps your customers, it's helping them to understand what you're doing, and how you're doing it and why you're doing it. So you might need to talk perhaps about regulations. You might need to help explain in a simple way, put tips and tricks about things that you need to do for the information that you need your clients to supply to you, in terms of I guess their receipts and all of that kind of thing, how you need it, why you need it, when you need it. And it's using content on your website, on blogs, and various other ways of getting it out there to explain those and help show your expertise.
I think it's like every industry. How effectively you're a translator. You've got to translate what the heck it is you do into something everyone else can understand.
Yeah.
And if you can do a good job of translating and making what you do understandable and relatable, then you can get people's attention. But if like I know, I'm not slagging off every accountant here, but I know some of them ramble on and on and on about numbers and regulations, and we all just switch off and go, well, what? As soon as I hear accountants start talking about regulations and numbers, I just instantly switch off and leave. I just go because it's so dull.
Yeah.
But if, like, I don't know if you remember when we had Joe and Bell on the show, that was a complete disaster because I screwed the audio up completely on that show. I was the only one who could hear what she was saying. But what she was saying, it was almost like she wasn't speaking as an accountant. It was really refreshing to sit in a room and to talk to an accountant who actually you completely forget that they're an accountant because she was just talking business language rather than accountant language.
Yeah.
And you could just totally relate to everything she was saying. And by the end of it, I was like, come on, Joan, where do I sign up? So I think to help Yogesh, probably the same as any business, really. Would that be a fair thing to say?
Definitely. I think it's about putting yourself in your client's shoes, and exactly as you just touched on, Richard, to make sure it's accessible in a way that they will understand it. So yeah, think about them. Think about if you're them, what is it that you're going to need to know as a client? What do your clients and what do they understand? How are they going to understand it?
Plus,
and simplify it for them. Yeah.
Yeah, I think if you understand what your client actually does, you've got a better chance of giving that information to them in something that they can understand.
Yes.
So if your client's a builder and you say, well, you know what? How about I find a way that you can get an extra labourer on site all year round without spending any extra money? They'd understand that because then you've got their attention. They go, oh, actually, what? Hang on. Whereas if you just said, how about I cut your taxes to do X, Y, Z, and they're like, they probably wouldn't understand it.
Yeah.
So as long as you can relate it to someone in a way that they understand and speak their language, then you're probably onto a winner.
Definitely. Yeah.
But there are some more comments, but we'll hold off on those for now because I know Jane's itching to get on with what we wanted to talk about tonight. Her head's about to explode if we don't just unload her brain. So just turn your camera off if that happens, Jane. So what are we covering first today, tonight? And a good point of what Yoga's just made. Who is your audience?
Yes. Now, I was hoping to share my screen, and I'm not sure if this is going to work.
Oh.
So we'll
call
give
the fire department when she tried this yesterday.
Give it a go. Oh, it's freezing a little bit as well. Yeah, I'm not sure how that's going to work. In that case, I will.
If you hit the share screen button, and if it shows up, then it will come up on the screen here.
Yeah.
What are you going to share with us, Jane?
Let's see. So, well, actually, what I'm going to talk about is some tips about your audience, finding who your audience is, because really, in content and in anything for your marketing, it really is about, the first thing is, who is your audience? Who are you trying to sell your services to? It's not working.
Well, this actually goes back to a lot of things that a lot of my other show guests have said. And it's becoming a consistent theme, if you like. You've got to know your audience.
Definitely.
Paul McCartney was saying the same thing. He's an e-business coach. The guy's like a Duracell battery, honest to God. And what he was saying about the coaching, the people he coaches, you've got to know your audience. You've got to understand what they're doing and who they are and where they are.
Yeah.
Is your screen share broken?
Yes, I don't know why it's not working. I'm not sure quite what we can do about that. I mean, I can obviously talk about it without the slides.
Screenshot fail.
That's not a problem.
I get to press 2 buttons this week.
Unless I make it into a PDF while we're talking,
let's have a look. See if it will let me share it this end.
Okay.
Let's press a button here. If the whole show goes offline and it all dies, then I've messed it all up, and we'll blame Jane for it anyway. That's just the easiest way to do it. So if I put that there, and then if I press this button here, I'm not religious, but I'm going to say a prayer in a minute. No, I can't share it either. What does that button do? Nope, that's not it. That's not the one. Oh, there it is. There we go. So if I do that, there we go. And if I
Aha.
press, I know. Isn't it good when you work out how to use the software?
Yeah, we
If I
did do
press
a
that
run
one-
through of
Oh no.
this. It
do
worked
that.
yesterday, didn't it? When we tried to run through.
Yeah. So
But-
if we keep it in this mode, because I've only got one screen that's sort of 7 foot wide. So
Okay.
if I hit full screen, everything disappears.
Okay.
So what I'll do, I'll minimize that bit there.
Yeah.
Make that bit a bit bigger there. There we go.
Okay.
At least
Cool.
everyone can see it then.
Yeah.
Happy days. Let's get rid of this annoying little thing on the side. Turn that off. There we go.
Okay.
So now we can all see that. Feel free to talk us through it and give me a slap when I should move on to the next one.
Cool. Okay. Well, glad we got something up there. So yeah, so this is just really a few pointers to help you try to identify your target customer. And it's, you know, what we were saying earlier, put yourself in their shoes. So think about things like it's always a good idea to have a particular customer in mind. And if one of your existing clients is your ideal client, you could perhaps start with them and mirror it on them and think about things. What's their age and their gender? If that's important, that may not be important to what you do, but in some businesses, obviously gender is and age can be. But equally, you might have, you might be targeting, middle-aged men, but you might also be targeting teenage men. I don't know. It depends on your business. So you would have what we call an avatar. So you could actually create a persona for each type of customer that you've got.
Like a dating profile, huh?
Well, yeah, okay, good. Up to a point, I suppose. So yeah, and you can
Who are you
actually
trying to
look.
wine and dine to spend money with you?
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it, actually. And then think about, where are they based? Is the geography relevant? Is what you do, is that location specific? If you're a very localized business and you want local clients, then clearly that's relevant. If you're not, if you're UK based or can work with people anywhere, then that's perhaps not such a factor to consider. But think about as well, what type of job do they do? What kind of income do they have? If you've got a product that is a very aspirational product, then that you perhaps want to be targeting higher income individuals. For example, I've been working with a gin brand, a new gin brand, and
that'd be
we
difficult.
we did it. It's a very nice client to work with, I have to say. We did a lot of work to begin with, actually working out their ideal customer, who they were, and we came up with 3 or 4 of these different personas or avatars. And they were mostly because it's a gin that is at a higher price point. It's either got to be people who really, really know and love their gin, or who are interested in learning about it. So it was going to be. Sorry?
What's the kind of people who wake up on the pavement at 6 a.m. on a Sunday? Yeah,
Whereas
they're not our ideal customer.
No, people who are wanting to, who are more sort of connoisseurs of gin or wanting to learn more about really nice gin, for example. And again, so that's where interests and preferences come in as well. But if you're, challenges and goals, what is your clients? What are their challenges? What are their pain points? What problems do you solve for them? That's usually a really good question to answer.
I think that's the biggest one most people overlook.
It is, yes, yeah. But if you can answer what's in it for me, because a client isn't really interested in your services and what you do, they're interested in themselves and what problems and issues or interests or whatever they have. And if you have something that answers their problems or answers their interests, then that's where they're more likely to you're more likely to appeal to them.
What's the number one reason people are actually actively looking for your business in the first place? They've got a problem and it needs fixing.
Yeah.
I'm
exactly.
sober. I need to get drunk.
Exactly.
Not me personally. wouldn't
And
bet.
then you know, where do they hang out? So by that I mean, you know, where do they consume information? Because when we're talking in the terms of talking about your marketing and your content and your PR, where are they going to consume their information? And this is important for when you look at what type of content you're going to put out and which channels you're going to put it out on. So for example, if your target audience is pensioners, then the chances are you're not going to be using something like Snapchat or TikTok to reach them in terms of social media. You're
If you've
probably
got half a
looking
brain, you
more.
won't be using TikTok.
You're going to be looking at, you know, some of the sort of Facebook or some of the more traditional media like the print media and things like that in order to get your, you know, reach them.
Yeah.
And then what makes them buy, and as are they business fellow businesses, or are they consumers? So are they B2B, you may well have heard of, or B2C, which stands for business to consumer. So all of those kind of things together help you to get your picture of your ideal client. And you may say you may have 2 or 3 of these for your business, but it's always a good place to start, because then that helps you to decide how and where you're going to reach them.
Happy days. Yeah, I mean, if you're a taxi company, then advertising at bus stops would be a good idea.
Yeah.
That's an idea, and that would be a local thing. You wouldn't actually advertise nationally, especially in the winter. You know, is it raining? Don't want to get on the bus? Call us.
Yeah.
Like you say, if you're a pensioner, you wouldn't be advertising at a go-kart track.
Well, you might, but
yeah, need a new hip replacement. So yeah, knowing who you're targeting first, that's critical. Because then once you know who you're after, then you know where to find you. You can figure out pretty much where to find them. So yeah, and then once you know who they are and where they are, just go ahead and find out what makes them buy if you have to. You know, like Jane says, what are their gripes? And if you can solve some of them, then you've got a product and you've got a business. I've, you know, 20 years I've been doing this. I've seen quite a few people who are, oh, my video's gone weird. My video's gone a bit.
Oh.
Well, I've just realised my video's frozen.
You look like you're frozen from here, yeah.
Yeah, that's always fun. So all the funny faces I've been sitting there making for the last God knows how long.
We missed them then.
I know, right? If I do this, switch it to that.
Oh, now it's just me. So, yeah, Richard seems to have gone temporarily, and hopefully we'll move on to the next slide in a minute when he comes back. But let's see what happens. So let's have a look at the comments while we're waiting for Richard to return. Hard to target your chosen audience.
Can you hear my audio?
Oh, yes, you're coming back.
There we go.
Okay.
Sorry, my camera software decided to go and try that gin.
I was just trying to keep it going while you were disappeared, so I was just starting.
Yeah, I could hear everything. I'm like, can anyone hear me? And it's like, no,
okay,
no response.
No.
Glad they can't hear me swearing at the computer software. Yeah, don't mention alcohol because my camera's like veer off into the direction of the nearest pub.
Can't go to the pub at the moment.
Shall I move that forward one?
Yes, please. Yeah.
There we go.
Okay.
Are we still talking about who's your audience?
Yes. So this is to help you then start to reach your audience. You know, what are your key messages? What are you going to say to them? As you'll see, I've already sort of said on there, what's in it for me? Answer, if you can answer that and answer the key things about your business. What are the things you need to get across about your products or your services?
He's a mean sod, isn't he? There's something about people called Richard.
What's happened? What? Just crack on with the talk. We don't need Richard.
Richard, let's just crack on. We don't need you. Okay, guys. Nice knowing you. I'll leave you with Jane. I could actually do that. It's fine.
It's your show, though.
No, it's your show. That's the whole point. So,
So
yeah,
yeah,
so
so
what-
this is really about, figuring out what you're going to start to figure out what you're going to say to them, and what are the key messages that you're going to get across in pretty much all of your marketing. It's about your services, your businesses, what do you do, what are all your products if you're a product based or combination business. And again, it's answering those pain points, and describe how they do it, but keeping it consistent and straightforward. So like we were saying earlier, talking to people in their own language, in the language that's relevant to them and what they do, and making it accessible.
Yeah. I think the biggest point to take away from that, and something that I've heard from just about every business person who does marketing and advertising, is the two key points there is A, what's in it for me? Because
Yeah.
people are selfish. That's what humans. That's how humans are.
Yeah,
Everyone
so, but that's
wants
true.
to know what's in it for them.
Yeah.
And don't make it complicated.
Yeah.
Unlike the mess I've made out of this show. So if they can understand it, it's simple, and they know what they're getting out of it, then you pretty much nailed it, right?
Yeah.
Happy days.
Okay.
Shall I move on?
Move on to the next one. Yeah.
You feel free to shout at me at any point. Say next.
Yeah, that's fine. Next one, please. Yes.
You're too polite, Jane.
So then the next thing really is to start planning your content. Now, I know some people do this and some people don't, but as with your business plan, your overall marketing strategy, your social media strategy, etc., planning your content is always a really good idea, because then you know what you're going to do. It also helps you to think of things that you want to do, you want to share, you want to say. And putting it into a calendar or a schedule of some kind helps you to know what you're doing. When you're busy doing everything else with your business, having a plan of what you're going to do is much easier, and also it helps you then with tying into what else is going on around you. So the third bullet there, tying it into your industry or the bigger picture. What's going on in the news? Is there something that's relevant that you want to talk about, that you can produce content about, a blog post maybe, or a video on a topic, or is it seasonal? When you're coming up to we're coming up to summer now, so for example, Neela hopefully won't mind me saying, but hay fever is a big thing for a lot of people coming up right now. So I know Neela's been talking to people about that, because it's topical right now.
It's just
Some
not just
people
with a lot of things to cry about.
there's pollens and things out there, Richard.
Fair enough. You see how ignorant I am. I'm not like that.
And then obviously seasonal, planning it around Christmas, or some of the things I've put there, like Father's Day is coming up this month. I think it is Stress Awareness Month, or Share a Story is next month. There's a whole heap of these, and you will have all seen them in some shape or form, I'm sure. There's a good website that I've put there, awarenessdays.com. There are others as well, but they're really useful for helping you plan what you're doing, or planning where you want to tie some of these things in. Obviously, not everything is relevant to your industry, so pick the ones that are. And obviously, you can't go. There's literally something every day, and on some days there's several things. So pick things that are relevant to you if you're wanting to find content ideas, and then mix this up with other things that you've got going on, and things that are coming up in your industry.
I never even realised National Pet Month even existed. April the 1st. I was like, is that an April Fool's joke, or is that real?
No,
Pet Month starts April the 1st. I
didn't
even know that.
Yeah, there's something for pretty much every type of industry.
Jelly bean
every
day.
out there.
Loving that.
Yeah.
Is there a National Chocolate Day too?
I
Yeah,
think
was it
there
just
is, yeah. I think there's a
every-
chocolate week, actually, I think. Yeah.
it's every day in my house? There's a nice looking website actually.
Mm.
That's actually going to be very useful. I bet they've got nothing in there for IT geeks and stuff like that.
There's also, I mean, that one, you can access the information for free. There is if you pay a fee, there is a downloadable version that you can synchronize
got
with
a
your
planning
calendars and
toolkit.
gadgets as well, but it's not expensive.
Yeah, they've got calendars you can download and all sorts. Looks pretty cool actually.
Yeah, it's quite a good website.
Yeah, so
I
if
use
you've
it a
learned
lot.
nothing at all today, other than that, you've gained a massive insight there. Actually, if you've learned nothing more than that, then you're probably half asleep. So, all right, so that's pretty cool actually. That's good to know.
So plan, yeah.
And on that subject, Richard jumps in with a very good question actually, and I think even I can answer this one. Think back to the Nescafe. Is it Nescafe, the coffee adverts, where you would never see the whole story from start to finish over the course of like 6 months? It was the guy and the girl, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And over the course of sort of 6 months, eventually, by the end of 6 months, everyone was probably screaming at the TV, "Just kiss her already!"
Yes.
So yeah, they had a really long-running campaign of. Eventually, they toned it down because the same people became neighbours, didn't they? And the neighbour would pop in for coffee or to borrow some stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it almost became a theme of theirs for advertising coffee.
But that keeps the interest going, doesn't it? As well, it makes and it's a story, and everybody likes a story. Yeah. We all like stories, and we all have our own stories, even as well, with our businesses.
It's like the world's shortest version of Romeo and Juliet. But it was cool. It captured your attention.
Yeah. So yes, to Richard's question, I'd say absolutely yes. Break it down. In fact, where you can put a different message, one message per campaign or one message per piece of content that you're doing. Again, that helps to keep it simple. That helps to keep it straightforward, and where you can keep that interest going. Yes, definitely do, and that also gives you more content, of course.
Indeed.
Having and where you can use content in different forms. So you might have an idea around take your coffee example, the story there. Nowadays that was obviously all done by adverts, but nowadays that might be done by some sort of YouTube videos, and they might have some blog posts with it, and then they'll put break some of those blog posts down into social media posts and disseminate it in short chunks and in different ways. So that's a really good and effective way of using one idea and getting a lot of mileage out of it.
Indeed. And I'll say something a bit controversial now. Going back to the days before the internet existed, so anyone watching this who's probably 20 or younger is going to be like, "What? No way."
What's that?
Yeah, what do you mean before the internet existed? Those coffee adverts, that was back when TV only had 5 channels. Again, a bit controversial because no one's going to believe that if you're 20 or under. So yeah, that was literally our media outlet. 5 channels on TV, and if you were really rich in your house, you had a remote control without the wire to change it. And but now product adverts are a lot more subtle. You've got things like product placement. So if you look on certain crime programs, Dell have been very good about this. In any crime programs and stuff, you'll see all the IT equipment is Dell, and that's not an accident. That's actually deliberate. Although it isn't actually, it is actually the case that if you walk into any emergency control room, it is all Dell kit anyway. So part of it's deliberate advertising, and part of it's actually fact. But I think simple things like YouTubers having certain products visible while they're talking to you.
That's all product placement, as you say. Yeah. Happens a lot.
Everyone wants to use what that guy on the other end of the camera is using. Well, he's the cool guy. He knows what he's doing. What's that product he's got? I want one.
Aspirational.
Yeah, and there's a really good IT guy on YouTube called Jay-Z 2 Cents, something like that. And he's just a average middle-aged white guy like the rest, like me. And he doesn't profess to be an expert at everything. But he put a video up the other day saying, "Hey, look, guys, I want to show you that everything." People were sending him loads and loads of comments about what's that piece of audio kit you've got on your desk that you're using? I want one. And he actually made a 10-minute video about how crap it is and telling everyone not to buy one. He said, look, just because I've got it, don't buy it. It's garbage. Everyone keeps saying, what's all those flashing lights on your desk? So he actually made a whole video of product unplacement, if you like. Just stop asking, don't buy it. It's rubbish. So not everything you see in the videos is great. But yeah, product placement is a good subtle way.
You'll also find a lot of that happening on, well, yes, I guess on YouTube, but also I think on places like Instagram and other social media where you've got your influencers. Now, I'm no expert on this at all, so I'm not, not completely au fait with how it works. But you've got some of your big names like Kim Kardashian and people like that who brands will pay them.
The name that's big there.
Will pay them. No comment. Will pay them to to advertise their product, to use their product in their posts for them.
Yeah, a lot of famous personalities online have been paid by brands to use their stuff. So it's something to consider.
Okay.
So if you want to send any of your free products to me and just have them sit right about here for the whole, then that's fine. Camcorders, digital cameras, all electronic goods, all welcome. But shall I click the next one, Jane?
Yes, please.
Cool. So types of content then, because there's a lot of, we say content and a lot of people think, okay, so you want me to write something, but actually it's more than that, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, written stuff is predominantly what I work with. But this, and I've put 14 or so different things there. That's just a small part of it, and these are probably the most common ones that you will have heard of and you'll be using for your own marketing. We come on to talk on a little bit more in a minute about blog and web content and some of the printed stuff, but there's also things that aren't down there, like webinars, anything really that when you're giving over information about your business, what you do in some shape or form, that's really considered as content. And yes, written is a large part of it, but obviously videos, podcasts, other ways people can consume information. There's just so much to it, really.
Yeah, pretty much anything that comes out of your mouth or your brain that anyone outside of your company is going to see can be classed as content. It's just how you relay that, whether it be online written, offline written, video or audio. There's so many different ways of unloading your brain onto the outer world, the big wide world. But a lot of people probably, when you say PR and content, people just think about writing. But in fact, there's a lot of other ways to do it.
But it's making it relevant, obviously, to your customers, your ideal clients, and that's why looking at the with stuff we looked at earlier in terms of identifying who they are and where they consume the media, to create something that is relevant for them. Now, video is big. We all know video is big, and if you've got video on your website, you're doing videos yourself. And video in social media, tends to get far more following and more likes and things like that than just written posts these days. But obviously the writing side of it still has a place as well.
Well, I don't know, if you look at the likes on this show, that would be the opposite. Only 3 of you. Come on, you mean sods. So yeah, if we can get some subscriber numbers up, that'd be great. It doesn't cost you anything to support the show.
No,
I'm always looking for some more business heroes to come on and tell their story, if you like, and share with the rest of the world why they should be the one that people pick up the phone to. So don't be afraid to hit the subscribe button. It doesn't cost you any money. But what it does do is show the other business heroes that come on the show why they should come on the show and that they should. So it's nothing to be afraid of. Little button down there that says subscribe. Just give that a click. Oh look, someone's hit likes. Yay, we are really live. It's not all fake. So yeah, subscribers help us achieve quite a few things as well, because YouTube unlock a a few nice things once we get to 1,000 subscribers.
Mm.
So we're not stuck at the basic bare bones
Mm.
minimum account features. So yeah, don't be afraid of hitting the subscribe, and I'll promise not to bore you too much. So
And
should I
and
click the next one on?
if you subscribe, then you're always getting a notification of when there's a new show available. Presumably, you jumped a bit far there.
A little bit, yeah. Yeah, you do. You can hit the little alert bell as well.
Yeah. So what's in it for a subscriber? Why should they subscribe? Is that what's in it for me?
Oh bugger! Yeah, you see what she's done there. Right, I'm off. Yeah. She's like, so who's your ideal audience, Rich? I'm like, I don't know. But actually, I know exactly who the ideal audience
Just to put you on the
is.
spot.
And I know where they are, and they're a mixture between Facebook and YouTube, which is they're a mixture between Facebook users and LinkedIn users, which was why I chose YouTube as the primary platform to go on, because that's like a happy medium where everyone's got a YouTube account, but not everyone's on Facebook or LinkedIn. So yeah, and if you could learn what I've learned in the last 14 weeks of doing this, I'm well ahead of the game as where I was 14 weeks ago. I mean, we're just a team of IT people, experts, eggheads, for the lack of a better phrase. And what we know about customer services and advertising and marketing and managing money, you can write on the back of a postage stamp. But in the last 14 weeks, that's grown exponentially, massively. And all thanks to the wonderful people who give up an hour of their time. Actually, it's more than that. It's 2 or 3 hours of their time for planning stuff like this, practicing, doing a run through. And for the little bit of, for that chunk of time they give up, what you learn out of this is actually incredible. So it's good that the show's achieving its aim. I'm learning something, and those who are tuning in regularly, I'm told, are also benefiting massively from it. So yeah, don't be afraid to hit the subscribe and hit the little alerts bell. Like I say, I've cut down on the intro to just 2 minutes now. This will bore people. But moving on. I don't want to ramble on. Shall I hit the next one?
Please, yeah.
There we go. Yeah, blogs.
So yeah, I just wanted to touch on some of the main types of content that I help people with, because this is stuff obviously I'm most familiar with, and I thought a few tips might help you here when you're wanting to create your own, because people often, blogs get talked about a lot, and people might wonder why they should do them, but they're great really for a number of reasons. Obviously for your search, to help with your search engine optimization, so that you get found more easily. And they're also great for some of the things I was talking about earlier, sharing tips and advice about what it is that you do, and to position you as an expert in your field, which is great for people to getting to like, know and trust you, which people really need to do that. Normally is about 7 touch points when someone comes to you after they first hear about you before they will buy from you. So they need to often hear from you in about 7 different ways. So sharing that kind of information. So blog is a great way of doing that, and because it's online, as I say, it helps you get found in search, which really you want people to be checking out if you've got a website, that is, you want people to be checking out your website. And if you haven't got a website, then obviously that's something also to consider. Why not?
Yeah, shame on you if you haven't got a website. You're stuck in 2000.
Yeah.
Probably still reading CFAX on a CRT television.
And it's a blog really. It's a sort of what we call long form content. So for search engine purposes, you really need to have 300 words or more, because then Google and the like won't index them really less than that.
Yeah, well, Sarah Marsh Collins was saying the other day, for an ideal blog post, if you go for about 800 or more, then you're onto a winner.
Definitely.
Like Jane says, a minimum of 300 will just barely. That'll get you on the radar, but don't expect anything to come of it. Go for 800 or more, then you're really getting into some details and putting some meat on the bones that a search engine can index.
definitely. Yeah.
If you're not sure what I mean, have a look at the blog post that Michelle did last week for last week's show. She followed up the show with a fantastic blog post, and it was wonderful. It was a joy to edit and format and put it on the website. So if you're not sure where to go for that, you can actually, if you head over to wesh.biz and take a look, everyone who comes on the show follows the show up with a blog post, and they get a little photograph there and how to reach them and stuff. So if you ever watch a show and you think, oh, I want to get in touch with that person, but what was their number again? All the links and stuff and their photos are on there. So we sort of try and big them up a little bit more and give them a bit of a good profile, so you can find them there. Sorry,
good.
Jane. I'm terrible for interrupting, aren't I?
But I mean, that's sort of the reasons why you would have a blog. But then when you're wanting to write your own, yes, the length is obviously something to consider. But within that, obviously bearing in mind people's attention span online, and particularly if they're reading it on their phone or tablet or something, it needs to be easy for them to read. So hence keeping things in short paragraphs, breaking it up with perhaps bullet points or some other way of keeping it shorter and clean, and headings. Headings are important because, again, the search engines like that, don't they, with the
They sure
heading
do.
heading tags that you might put in.
Yeah, and if you look at the way Jane's written that content down the side there, even without being able to read the words themselves, you can see that it's physically structured, which is something a lot of people fail to do. There's nothing worse than reading a bit of content where someone clearly doesn't know what a paragraph or a sentence is. I see that a lot, and it's dreadful. It switches. You just don't want to read it straight away.
Yeah.
You're not even going to look at the first line.
Yeah, I mean, you're quite a bit are going to be difficult to read from here, but these are just a couple of examples of blogs that I've written for clients.
He's mean, isn't he?
So I'm not expecting you to read them.
Listen, Jane. Where's the ban button? Where's the kick out? There we go. Get rid of him. Put him in time out. He's a mean sod, isn't he?
But as you've rightly said, just by breaking them up like that, the one on the first one, the spring heating tips, which I wrote for a heating and plumbing client, that's actually broken up in tip 1, tip 2, tip 3, tip 4, etc. And each of those then in their own right make content for social media. So we can have we created some graphics and put the tip in the body there of social media. So we got 5 or 6 social media posts out of the blog as well. The other one is for a company that they help if you've had an insurance claim because you've had a flood or a fire or a other building disaster of that nature, and you're having to claim on your insurance. They help you get the work done through your insurance, but they also help you make sure you get the right money from your insurer. And we look at different topics for them as well, and create a series of blogs educating people on what they do and how they can help it, and what understanding, again, putting it in layman's terms, their insurance, how you approach your insurer, what different types of insurance are, difference between buildings and contents insurance. Again, was another one. It's not there, but it's another one I wrote for
Educating
them.
the audience.
Things like that. Yeah.
Awesome. Shall I hit the next one?
Yes, please. So these are slightly difficult to show up when I was sort of putting this together, but I just wanted to talk a little bit about website content. Some of what we just said about blogs obviously follows from that in terms of helping with your SEO, and again writing it in a nice and clear and concise way. So these are just 3 examples of ones that I've done there. I'm not involved in the build or the design of these websites, although I do often work with the designers doing it to input into either the design that they've built or something that works for the client. But the top one actually is the gin company that I mentioned. I can't see that very well on this screen. Samara Gin, and the bottom left, that is a That's Benitor. That is a building services company that does all sorts of different refurbishments.
It's a lovely looking website they got. By the looks of it.
Yeah. And then on the right, it is Chicane School of Motoring, who I believe some of you know I may know fairly well. But again, I helped him with his the content for his website as well.
Happy days.
So I don't know if there's anything you want to add in, Richard, in terms of obviously from an SEO
the only
perspective.
point I wanted to touch on really in regards to SEO is, I don't know if a lot of people are aware of this, but when you're writing your content, and I've found this to be the case through years of experimenting, is that your content needs to be written as if an 11-year-old child was reading it.
Yeah.
And that's the average age you need to aim for when you're writing text. It needs to be formatted and using words that an 11-year-old child can understand.
Yeah.
If you go beyond that, it's not going to be as effective. That's about the sweet spot. Is everything I've read and everything I've tried and experimented with. That is pretty much on the money. If you can aim it at if an 11-year-old child can read it and understand it, you're doing it right. If it would need a lawyer to understand it, then forget it. You're on the wrong path.
I think that's the thing with certainly when I first started, on my career in PR and content, and that I was almost having to unlearn everything that I had thus far learnt at school and uni and things like that, because it was all about writing really long essays and very verbose and putting long language and very difficult language in, which obviously then when you're trained to do something when your profession, you may still need to do that in some instances and write in that way. But actually in any kind of marketing, you don't do that. It's really stripping it back and being simple with the language and making it easy to understand. So exactly as you said, make it like you can talk to an 11-year-old, and then an intelligent 11-year-old. Then that's the way to look at it. Yeah.
Happy days. Was that you saying next?
Yep. Let's go next. Yeah.
Click. There we go. Oh, nice bright colours.
Yes, so I wanted to talk here is to say a little bit about, obviously we're talking a lot about online content, and that is a big part of most people's marketing these days, particularly for smaller businesses. It's easier to do, it's relatively low cost, but that is not to forget, if it's right for your audience and right for what you're doing, physical materials, so brochures, leaflets, other printed materials that you might want, like annual reports, things like that. So these are a couple of examples of some that I've worked on for clients there. The first one is, in fact, and I do actually have them here to show you, they do exist physically in printed version.
So if you're 20 or under, this is what the internet used to look like.
So these are brochures. Again, I don't do the design, but I do work, as I say, with designers to help get these sorted. But it's really to have the language right.
Yeah, the designer makes it look good, and Jane makes it readable.
Yeah, Helen, who is Aphrodite Weddings here, who's one of the brochures I'm holding, I'm sure she won't mind me saying that she was struggling to get her stuff written down in the right way. She knew what she wanted to say, but she didn't know how to say it and how to say it in the best way to get her across to her clients, her potential clients.
Like every business owner, doesn't it?
Yeah. It happens quite a lot. So, but she was worried
you know what you're trying to say in your head, but it just doesn't come out.
But I want it to be me. I want it to come across as me, but also professional in the right way. Yeah. So I took it and I worked on it for her. And
great, an outside person looking at what you're trying to achieve and go, well, do it like this, and then all of a sudden you go, the light bulb comes on. You go, oh yeah, actually that makes more sense.
Yeah. Because sometimes as business owners, and I'm like this as well, you're too close to your own business. So sometimes having a third party look at it, with sort of impartial eyes will help there.
Yeah, especially if someone's doing nothing but they're stuck working in their business so much rather than working on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they're not even thinking about how other people perceive it.
Yeah. And then the others that I've got there, this is for a charity called Team Up. So they actually wanted an annual report doing, and they'd only ever done it in-house before, and it was just basically a Word document turned into a PDF.
I was going to say, I bet it was a long, boring Word document, though.
And we had to. So they provided me with a lot of stuff for it, and I had to really strip it right back. And I project managed this for them as well, and got a designer in, and worked on the design for them, and got the whole thing produced for them. Now we had to go through lots of different rounds of amends, and their committee had to see it and things like that. So that's obviously something that
part of making sense of a report is actually being focused enough to keep reading it.
Yeah. And it's making it accessible. I mean, within the initial stuff we had was about 28, 30 pages long, and we brought it down to 20. And actually they've said to me, next year we'd like to do it again, but we'd like to get it a bit shorter potentially if we can. And the only reason
it's a bit too much.
The reason it was longer is because they had certain things that they needed to include, and they had to, from an annual report perspective, they have to put figures in and things like that. But yeah.
Yeah, when it's written properly, it also helps people who are reading it to actually understand it as well.
Yeah.
I've seen reports and stuff like that that just go on and on and on. You get sort of halfway through it, and you're like, I still don't understand any of this stuff. So yeah, having it written properly makes all the difference. Cool. So I think I don't really have anything to add to that, because I'm not the expert on writing stuff. I mean, I can write you a really well written a blog article. I can take your content and turn what Jane writes into something that Google loves. But coming up with the content and finding out who needs to read it and where they need to see it and in what format, that's Jane's speciality, really. So if you need to get your message out there and you haven't got a blooming clue where to start or how to go about it, or even what format it should be in, then Jane's the person to speak to. And like Neela was saying earlier, one thing I did want to touch on, when Neela said that video content is scary, I think one of the things that makes it easier is when you share the load.
Yeah.
So if you do a video on your own, you're probably going to be terrified. If you can get someone in on your video and to collaborate with you, it suddenly feels like a partnership rather than the whole world staring at you. So if you're making a video on your own, the whole world's watching you. So if you screw up, it's all on you. Whereas if I screw the show up, it's all on me and Jane. She can take half the blame for it. You see how there's a logic behind it, right? So the first few screw ups I made, it was all Robin's fault. So if you see this, Robin, yeah, I'm blaming you. So if you're going to make a video to maybe accompany a blog post or something else that's written in media, finding a way of collaborating on it can be a wonderful way of taking some of the pressure off, of making it not so frightening. I mean, I could sit here and bore the pants off of people with IT information all day long. I'd be sitting there talking to myself because they'd all switch off. But when I bring a guest on the show and actually incorporate some of what I know into, they're not, the guest is 90% of it, and I just chip in every now and then, take the mickey out of them and tell silly jokes. Then it makes it a little bit more fun and takes the pressure off. So it's a lot easier if you're thinking of doing video. Give a collaboration some thought, and have someone, even if they're not on camera, have someone present to help you, can actually just take some of the pressure off as well. So if you've got a couple of people in the room giggling and laughing and throwing things at you while you're, as Sarah Marsh Collins was trying to do, she was encouraging my wife to throw things at me. Says, please don't do that. She's going to pick up some steak knives from the kitchen. But any form of collaboration, no matter what it is you're doing, can make things a lot easier to cope with and to present as well. It can make you feel less stressed out about it. I remember the first show I did 15 weeks ago, and it was just myself, no guests. And by the time it had finished, I was like, thank God that's over. It did feel like a bit of a slog. But as soon as Robin came on board, and it actually felt like a bit of fun.
Yeah.
So before we wrap up and let everyone go off to bed, for those of you who are over the age of 40, let's get to the bit Susan's favorite time of the day. It's the top tips time. Did you like
Oh, I
that?
like that. I like that jingle. Yes,
I know,
definitely.
right? That's especially for
Needs
that.
a good jingle there.
So we can send everyone away knowing at least 5 things as a minimum, or give them a reason to fast forward the replay of the show right to the last 5 minutes.
Yeah, well, this is really summarising stuff I've been talking about, but they're my top tips really for when you're getting started with your content, in particular your marketing in general. It's identifying your customer and what they consume, what information they consume, and where they consume it, so you know where you're going, where you're putting your stuff out, where you're getting stuff out. And how you help them. So what are your key messages? And don't forget to answer their what's in it for me. What are their pain points? Put yourself in their shoes. And then plan it. Plan your content out. Make sure it's timely, it's relevant, it's tied in with what's going on, whether that be seasonal or other stuff that's going on in the big wide world or in your industry or anything you're involved in. So if you're doing some speaking gigs or you're doing a video like this or something like that, that you're mentioning that in your other content. But tailor it to your customers. So go where they are and make it easy for them. So as we were talking about the different formats, use the different types of content that are relevant for your audience in the right places. And then obviously if you're struggling with that, want some help, collaboration, as you were just saying, or outsource, if you're struggling with your content in some way, whether it's just to plan it or whether it's to actually write it or just to edit something that you've already done yourself, outsource it. There's to me or to other people,
To me, to
that
you.
they're doing this, they're doing a certain, that work in the, specialise in doing that. But yeah, business is very much about collaboration, particularly for small businesses. We can't do this in isolation on our own. We work together, and I think that's a really
nightmare, wasn't it?
important thing. Yeah.
Cool. So
that's it.
That is absolutely one. And if you did cheekily skip the first 55 minutes of the show and fast forward to the top tips, a lot of this will make a lot more sense if you actually listen to what Jane has said about each of those 5 points earlier. So like I said, she's summarizing what she said, but to understand these points, you really would need to rewind and have a little look. Actually, look, there's our names. He switches it on in the last 20 seconds. He's like, "Come on, Rich, you've not figured this out yet."
That's been there all the time.
I know, right? Oh, that's what that button does. I've only been using this software for 3 shows now, so I'm getting the hang of it.
I'll forgive you.
But yeah, if you want to be on the show, what I'd really like to do as well is have a great big collaboration one day where we have 6 guests on the show at once. Either 6 of 5 different industries or 5 of the same industries, and really bash out some stuff to do with whatever's going on in the current affairs. So if you do want to come on the show, I don't just have to have 1 guest at a time. I can have up to 5 at a time. And if we really go nuts with it, we can have 10 and just start moving you in and out of the show as needed. That can really screw things up. That'd be fun. So if you do want to come on the show, drop us a message. The information you need can be found right here. I used to get a lot of requests to come on the show from people through LinkedIn and stuff, or handing me their business cards at networking events. And obviously, where you get so much information, you can't keep track of it all. So I just created a little contact form on West.biz, just fill it in, and it will come to me actually in a way that I can't lose it, and I can easily get in touch with you and actually know exactly why I've got that business card in my hand to start with. So next month we're all talking about health and well-being. So if you're a personal trainer, work in food, nutrition, anything to do with health and well-being, get in touch. I've already got a couple of guests lined up for next month, and it's going to be a very interesting couple of shows so far. I'm looking forward to it.
Excellent.
So my appetite is not. Something tells me I'll probably be on a health kick by the end of next month that I don't want to be on. Any comments before we go? Neela says, really enjoyed the show today. Wonderful to
Thank
have
you,
some
Neela.
feedback. I hope you all enjoyed it. And stay tuned next week, 7 o'clock. No, don't stay tuned. Come back again next week. Go and do something productive. Come back next week, 7 o'clock, and we shall meet another business hero next week. And hopefully, all being well, we'll get it right. I think today's show went well. No cock ups today. I can save that until the end of the show before I say things like that. And, yeah. So all good. No questions from anyone before we go. Hopefully Jane will have a good evening. And stay safe, everyone, and have a very productive week and a great weekend. And we'll see you all next Wednesday. And thank you very much to my guest Jane for coming in tonight. It's been much appreciated and wonderful having you on.
Thank you, Richard.
Show us some love, guys. Show us some love. So we'll see you all again next Wednesday. Have a great week, guys. Thanks for coming. Thanks a lot,
you.
Jane.
Thanks, Richard. Thanks, all. Bye.
So I've got to press the right buttons now, see? Turn that one off. This way it takes me 10 minutes to say goodbye because I don't know what buttons I'm pressing. There we go. Right, so you can kick yourself off, Jane, and I shall see everyone next week.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Jane. So if I put that one on. And